Ever feel like you're stuck in data migration quicksand? You know,
Oh, tell me about it.
those multi-year sagas.
Yeah.
Especially from something as mighty as Teradata over to BigQuery, when you're
Right?
knee-deep in spreadsheets one minute and then wrangling stakeholders the next.
Ugh, the worst.
Well, this deep dive is for you.
Okay.
We're about to unlock some seriously strategic moves
Yeah.
thanks to Google Cloud expert Navneet Kumar.
Oh, interesting.
And get this,
What's that?
he uses game theory to make migrations not just manageable, but
Wait, hold on.
game theory.
Game for project management. I mean, it sounds a little unorthodox.
Okay, I'll admit, when I first heard game theory for project management, I was picturing spreadsheets full of dice rolls
Huh? Right.
and Monopoly boards in meeting rooms.
But
But trust me, Kumar's insights are anything but a gamble.
so walk me through this. How does he connect the dots between like game theory and something as, well, messy as a data migration?
Well, he kicks things off with the prisoner's dilemma.
Okay, the prisoner's dilemma, classic example.
Remember that one from, like, Econ 101?
Yeah, vaguely. Two suspects, right? Trying to decide whether to betray each other or stay silent.
Right, two suspects, separated, and they each have to decide whether to rat the other one out.
High stakes.
Exactly. Do they prioritize their own lighter sentence, potentially throwing their partner under the bus? Or do they stay silent and risk a harsher penalty if the other person talks?
It's a tough one, ethically and strategically.
Totally. And that's where Kumar brilliantly connects it to those of us in the data trenches.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
He points out that different teams involved in a migration,
Like your ETL folks, your infrastructure gurus.
yeah, all of them, they can become those prisoners.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
So laser focused on their own tasks and deadlines that they risk derailing the entire project.
It's so easy to get siloed, isn't it?
It is your heads down in your own world.
Just trying to hit those deadlines.
Exactly.
And then, bam, you come up for air and the project's gone off the rails.
That's the worst. That's where Kumar's solution comes in.
Okay, what's the antidote to this data silo syndrome?
Building trust
Makes sense.
and fostering a culture of open communication.
Easier said than done sometimes.
Right, so he gives this really concrete action item. Implement a shared project wiki.
Oh, interesting. Like a single source of truth for the whole migration.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Updated weekly by each team.
Okay, I like.
They detail their progress, any roadblocks.
Even shout outs to those who help them out.
Yeah. I mean, why not spread a little positivity, right?
Absolutely. That's smart. It's like instead of those weekly sync ups being a dreaded chore,
Right.
they actually become a space for like genuine collaboration.
Yes. Teams can see how their work impacts the whole migration.
How working together actually leads to better outcomes for everyone.
It's about moving from me to we.
From solo prisoner to a well-coordinated escape team. I love that.
Right. But speaking of coordinated, how do we make sure all those individual team goals?
Yeah, because everyone's got their own little piece of the puzzle.
Exactly. How do we make sure they actually align with the overall project objectives?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
And that's where I think Kumar's next point about Nash equilibrium comes in.
All right, Nash equilibrium, another Econ 101 flashback.
So imagine each team absolutely crushing their individual targets.
Okay.
Everyone's getting pats on the back. But the project as a whole is still massively behind schedule.
Oh, no.
That's the danger of everyone acting rationally, but not necessarily in a unified way.
Oof. That's the stuff of project manager nightmares.
It is. Everyone's working hard, but the finish line keeps moving further away.
This is like running on a data treadmill, you know?
The worst, so Kumar provides a pretty ingenious solution.
I'm listening.
He suggests tying team incentives and rewards not just to their individual task completion,
Okay.
but directly to those big collaborative milestones
Oh, interesting.
that actually signal true progress for the entire migration.
So it's not just about, like, the ETL team finishing their data extraction.
Right.
You hold off on the party until that data is actually useful.
Successfully migrated, cleaned, and ready to rock and roll in BigQuery.
I like it. It's all about those shared goals.
And imagine a shared project dashboard where everyone can see these milestones being smashed in real time.
Oh, that visual reminder would be huge for keeping everyone motivated.
Right. Hitting those milestones means bonuses,
Nice.
recognition,
Even better.
maybe even a team lunch.
Now you're speaking my language.
Suddenly, everyone's invested in each other's success.
Now that's what I call a win-win.
It is. I could already see how that would boost team morale,
Absolutely.
and keep the project on track.
For sure. But let's be real.
Okay.
Even the most collaborative teams, they can still get tripped up
Oh, yeah.
when it comes to resources.
Resources, that's the other big one. And of course, Kumar anticipates this.
Of course he does. He's got a game theory concept for everything, doesn't he?
He does. He brings in the ultimatum game.
Okay, the ultimatum game. That one rings a bell, but refresh my memory.
So imagine two players.
Okay.
One gets to propose how to divide something up.
Like a pot of money or something.
Yeah, let's say a pot of money, just to keep it simple.
Okay.
The other player can either accept the offer or reject it.
Sounds straightforward enough.
But here's the catch. If they reject it, nobody gets anything.
Ooh, high stakes. So there's this built-in incentive to be at least somewhat fair.
Exactly. Otherwise, you risk walking away with nothing.
Right, but how does this apply to, like, data migration?
Well, think about it.
Okay.
What are the resources that are critical to any project's success?
Well, budget, for one.
Huge.
Staffing, definitely. And probably time itself.
Yes. Kumar argues that these are the things that need to be split fairly and transparently from the get-go.
Otherwise, resentment festers, right?
Morale takes a nosedive.
It's like finding out your coworker, who's doing basically the same job, is making way more money than you.
The worst. Kills your motivation faster than you can say data silo.
And nobody needs that.
So to prevent that,
What does Kumar suggest?
he recommends regular, transparent resource reviews.
Okay, I like where this is going.
Quarterly check-ins where teams can openly discuss their needs
Love it.
and any constraints they're facing.
Gotta keep those lines of communication open.
Exactly. So it's less about being nice.
It's about being strategic.
100%. It's about making sure that the best people for each task
Have the resources they need
when they need them.
to keep the whole project on track.
It's like that old saying, a stitch in time saves nine, right?
You got it. And honestly, that leads perfectly into the next game theory concept Kumar explores,
Which is,
the zero-sum game.
okay, the zero-sum game.
And this one is big, especially for avoiding those data migration disasters.
Right, the zero-sum game. That sounds kind of ominous.
Yeah, it can be, especially in the context of a project like this.
Like one team's win is another team's loss.
That's the basic idea, but in a data migration,
It shouldn't be like that.
no, not at all. We're all on the same team here, right?
Yeah.
Working towards a common goal.
Exactly. But I can see how that kind of competitive mentality can sneak in.
Oh, absolutely, especially when you've got deadlines looming and resources are tight.
Right. You start hoarding information, maybe throwing other teams under the bus to make yourself look better.
Not good.
Instead of celebrating each other's wins, you're secretly hoping someone else will mess up.
Which helps no one.
The worst. So how do we combat that negative energy? It's not healthy.
Kumar has some good advice here.
Lay it on me.
So first of all, he talks about the importance of celebrating those smaller, more frequent wins.
Okay, I like that.
Because we've talked about those big project-wide milestones,
Right.
but it's those smaller wins that keep the momentum going.
Totally. It's easy to lose sight of the big picture when you're down in the weeds.
Exactly. So think Team of the Month awards, shout-outs and team meetings, even just a quick email from the project lead acknowledging a job well done.
Those little things can make a big difference.
They really can.
But what about that bigger picture, though? Like shifting from a zero-sum mentality to one of shared victory. That feels trickier.
That's where Kumar's second point comes in.
Okay, tell me more.
He says we need to actively look for opportunities to celebrate each other's successes.
Interesting.
Did the infrastructure team just nail a complex server migration? Shout it from the rooftops?
I love it. Make it a big deal.
Exactly. Did the ETL team come up with an elegant solution to a tricky data mapping problem?
Tell everyone.
Exactly. Share the knowledge, spread the good vibes.
It's like that old saying, if you want to go fast, go alone.
But if you want to go far,
Go together.
exactly. Celebrating those wins, both big and small, it reinforces this idea that we're all in this together.
And that's how you prevent those silos from popping up in the first place.
Right. And speaking of teamwork, this leads perfectly into the final game theory concept that Kumar explores, the stag hunt.
Stag hunt. Okay, you're really speaking my language now. I love a good analogy.
So picture this. You've got a group of hunters.
Okay, I'm picturing it,
They can choose to cooperate to take down a large stag,
which would provide a ton of food, right?
a massive feast for everyone. Or they can each go it alone, try to catch a hare.
Which is easier,
Easier.
but obviously a much smaller reward.
Exactly. So it's about this balance, right?
Between those quick wins and the bigger payoff that requires a bit more, I don't know, trust.
Yes. Teamwork, patience, a shared vision.
And in a data migration.
I bet you can already see where this is going.
Those hairs are like those smaller tasks
Right.
that look good on a progress report but don't necessarily move the needle.
While the stag, that represents those major milestones like completing those critical data pipelines, decommissioning those old Teradata systems, the big stuff.
The stuff that really makes a difference.
Exactly. And while Kumar definitely emphasizes the importance of keeping those ambitious stag-sized goals in sight.
Right. Got to have that North Star. Yeah.
Absolutely. But he also stresses the need to break those goals down into smaller, more manageable chunks.
Makes sense.
It helps to maintain momentum, prevents teams from getting overwhelmed.
It's like that classic advice for running a marathon.
Oh, I love that analogy.
Focus on finishing the next mile, not the entire race.
Exactly. But in this case, it's not just about individual endurance, right?
It's about celebrating those milestones together.
Yes. Kumar talks about the importance of regular all-hands meetings, but not to dwell on what went wrong or play the blame game.
Right. Nobody needs that.
Instead, these meetings become a time to celebrate how far the team has come collectively.
Okay, so shifting the whole dynamic,
From focusing on problems to celebrating achievements.
which reinforces that sense of shared accomplishment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it helps to prevent that feeling of, oh my gosh, we're never going to finish this thing.
Which, let's be honest, can happen to the best of us.
Oh, absolutely. Especially on those long, complex projects.
So it's about creating a culture of celebration, recognizing that every step forward, no matter how small, brings you closer to that ultimate goal.
And that shared sense of purpose, that feeling of being part of something bigger than yourself, it's incredibly powerful, especially when the going gets tough.
Totally. And speaking of tough, we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have. From prisoner's dilemmas to stag hunts, who knew that Econ 101 would come in so handy?
Right. But honestly, I'm so impressed with how relevant these game theory concepts are to something as seemingly complex as a data migration.
It's all about recognizing the patterns, isn't it?
And once you start to see those patterns playing out in your own work, it's like a whole new world opens up.
It really does. And what I love about Kumar's approach is that he doesn't just leave us with these abstract theories.
Right. He gives us actual tools.
He provides concrete, actionable steps that we can take to apply these insights to our own work. And that's what makes this so valuable.
Totally. So as we kind of start to wrap up this deep dive into the world of game theory and data migration, what's the one key takeaway that you hope our listeners are walking away with today?
Even though data migration can feel like this incredibly technical, overwhelming beast, at the end of the day, so much of its success hinges on something surprisingly simple: human connection.
It always comes back to that, doesn't it?
It really does. It's about building trust, fostering collaboration, celebrating each other's wins.
Remembering that we're all on the same team, striving towards a shared goal.
Exactly. And while the technical stuff is obviously critical,
Of course.
it's often those human elements, those, dare I say, softer skills that ultimately make or break a project.
Couldn't agree more. And you know me, I always like to leave our listeners with a little something to ponder, something to chew on,
I like where this is going.
Kumar focused on Teradata to BigQuery migrations here. But as we've discussed, these strategies, they're universal.
Oh, absolutely.
So think about your own work, your own life.
Yeah.
What other situations could you apply these game theory principles to?
It's a great question, and the possibilities are pretty much endless.
It's amazing how these game theory concepts, they seem complicated at first.
Right. Like something you'd study in a textbook.
Exactly. But they actually make understanding teamwork
And project dynamics.
so much easier.
It's like Kumar gives us this whole new language, a new way of seeing these challenges.
It's like that aha moment you have when you realize that all those spreadsheets and Gantt charts,
Right.
they're only part of the story.
It's the human element.
Yes. The real magic happens when you start applying those game theory strategies
Yeah.
to how teams actually work.
Absolutely. It's like we're not just reacting to these complex dynamics.
Right.
We can anticipate them.
Plan for them.
Maybe even use them to our advantage.
Exactly. Like we're trading in our data migration hard hats.
For like a strategist's toolkit or something.
Exactly. So to recap for our listeners, we've learned
Let's see, where did we start?
5, count them, 5 key game theory strategies
Wow, okay.
that can completely change how we approach not just data migrations, but
Pretty much any complex project, right?
any complex project. You got it. So we started with the prisoner's dilemma,
Yes, the classic.
which highlighted the importance of building trust and fostering collaboration, even when those individual team goals, they might feel a little
At odds.
at odds, yeah. And remember Kumar's solution for that one.
The shared project wiki.
Yes. updated weekly by each team.
Such a simple idea.
But so smart.
Detailing progress, roadblocks, shout-outs. I love that part.
All right. Spread the love.
It creates that transparency.
We're in this together mentality.
Exactly.
And then there's the Nash equilibrium, which, if you remember, that reminds us that
John.
even when everyone's being totally rational, we still need to align those individual incentives with those big
Overarching project objectives.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you end up with everyone hitting their individual targets, but the project as a whole is still, like, dead in the water.
the worst.
And what was Kumar's solution for that one again?
Oh, tie those rewards, those bonuses, those team lunches
The team lunches.
Yep.
Always a good motivator.
to those big collaborative milestones.
The ones that actually mean something for the whole project.
Exactly.
Love it.
And speaking of wins, we can't forget about the ultimatum game,
Ah, yes, the ultimatum game.
which taught us all about
Fairness.
fairness and transparency when it comes to those precious, precious resources.
Because nobody wants to feel like they're getting the short end of the stick.
Exactly. Especially when it comes to things like budget,
It's that
staffing.
all those things can make or break a project.
Absolutely. Regular check-ins, open communication. That's how you prevent those data silos, those hurt feelings.
And keep that data flowing smoothly.
Exactly. Now, I don't know about you, but I never thought a concept like the zero-sum game.
It sounds very like game show, doesn't it?
It does. It sounds very
Yeah.
winner takes all. But it was such a good reminder that
That in a data migration, there are no true winners unless everyone wins.
Exactly.
It's all about shifting away from that scarcity mindset
that me versus you mentality.
and embracing abundance instead.
Yes. Celebrating each other's successes, fostering that true spirit of collaboration. That's how you create a winning team. Every time.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And last but not least, we finished up with Kumar's very memorable analogy of the stag hunt,
Oh, yes, the hunters.
which really highlighted the importance of
Patience, right.
patience
Right.
and teamwork, especially when those big, hairy, stag-sized goals feel
A million miles away.
a million miles away. So remember, it's okay to break those goals down.
Into those smaller, bite-sized pieces.
Exactly. Celebrate those wins along the way, no matter how small, because those small wins,
They add up.
they really do. They create momentum, they boost morale, they remind us that we're all in this together.
And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, right? Connection, collaboration, and maybe even a little bit of celebration along the way.
Beautifully said. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the fascinating world of game theory and data migration.
It's been an adventure.
It has. From prisoners' dilemmas to stag hunts, who knew that economics could be so relevant to our work?
Right. But seriously, I hope our listeners are walking away with some valuable insights today.
Me too. Remember, those complex data migrations, those big, hairy projects, they don't have to be a recipe for disaster.
Nope.
With a little bit of strategic thinking, a dash of collaboration, and a whole lot of human connection, we can turn those challenges into opportunities for growth, innovation, and yes, even a little bit of fun.
Here, here.
And on that note, we'll catch you next time for another deep dive into a topic that's sure to, well, stimulate those brain cells.
Can't wait.
Until then, happy strategizing, everyone.